How's it going, you guys? In this video, I'm going to be explaining my main problems with mainstream nutrition advice and a lot of these evidence-based gurus. What are some of the issues that I have with these things? So, the main one is that mainstream nutrition advice, mainstream evidence-based nutrition gurus, regardless of whether they are a medical doctor, a dietitian, a nutrition scientist, whatever, their main priority is caloric balance and weight loss. They don't focus so much on people who have severe digestive illness, food intolerances, or they might mention food intolerances kind of, but not really go into enough detail to arm people with enough critical thinking to understand, how much their advice actually applies to them. So they're hyper focused on weight loss and caloric balance, and so then it's very easy for them to talk down on diets like the carnivore diet, the paleo diet, or whatever, without actually truly being unbiased and emphasizing critical thinking and discernment behind some of the potential benefits of some of these other diets. Even things like ketogenic diets, some of the byproducts of ketogenic metabolism, for example, have some extremely important applications for certain diseases. And so, they're like, oh yeah, keto is bullshit, it's blah, 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 it doesn't really have a lot of benefit for this and that, blah, blah, blah. Carnivore, just eliminating food groups for no apparent reason, paleo, removing beans and lectins or whatever when they're really not that a problem. They have nothing to do with weight loss and health outcomes and blah, blah, blah. Just eat whole foods, eat generally healthy, restrict your calories, increase your fruit and vegetable intake and eat adequate protein and you'll be fine, you're good to go. So, health and nutrition science is very nuanced, and when we are wrapped up in the mainstream paradigm of calories in versus calories out, satiation and fiber and adequate protein and micronutrients, we miss a lot of important points. The main ones is, so look, certain foods cause serious problems for certain people. And I know certain people, certain evidence-based gurus out there like Mike Israetel and some of these others, they might agree that, okay, well, for certain populations of people who have food intolerances, elimination diets do make sense, but the majority of the population don't have to remove beans and whole grains and blah, 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 and they'll do just fine eating a regular healthy diet, restricting calories, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like they're severely underestimating the amount of people who actually suffer from food intolerances. And I think it's easy to underestimate how many people are suffering from food intolerances when you don't understand the wide scope of conditions people suffer from that they don't realize are actually being triggered by food intolerances. So everything from acne to Crohn's disease to, irritable bowel syndrome and colitis, to even things like fibromyalgia that a lot of people think are caused by neurological mechanisms, when in reality, fibromyalgia, symptoms of fibromyalgia, and even some of the proposed mechanisms of fibromyalgia can actually be triggered by an immune response, or towards foods irritating the gut lining. And so if you're wrapped up in the mainstream paradigm, you might look at some of these things like acne and fibromyalgia and think, oh no, fibromyalgia is purely neurological. There's no way, there's just no possible way that a food intolerance can be triggering that. Meanwhile, there's a whole host of people who are finding that if they remove peanuts and gluten and gliadin containing grains, for example, wheat and peanuts. In the case of some of my very, very close, some people are very, very close to me, and some of the clients I've worked with, they find their fibromyalgia goes away. and their doctors are dumbfounded. They're like, whoa, what the hell? Then you have people who are suffering from Crohn's or from Crohn's disease, for example. And they go to a doctor says, oh, what you're eating doesn't really matter, blah, blah, blah. Or some doctors will say, oh, you need to stop eating the refined foods and eat more whole foods, but the symptoms don't go away when they do this. And then the doctor's like, well, gastroenterologist or whatever. They go to the specialist doctor, and now they are scheduled for surgery to get part of their colon removed. They're going to get part of their intestine removed to deal with their Crohn's disease or whatever. When there's actually thousands of people that find remission of their symptoms happens when they remove certain food intolerances like whole grains or certain plant foods. Or some people find that dairy might trigger that. But one thing is for certain is it is the norm for people who actually embark on this journey of using like a food diary and a symptom diary, and they go on an elimination diet and they do it properly for a long amount of time. They find that certain foods actually seem to have a direct, they seem to cause, but they could just be a trigger. But they seem to cause a lot of these problems that they go to the doctor for, and doctors prescribe these invasive, crazy surgeries that can be life-changing, like life-threatening. So many people get their intestines, cut out, parts of their intestines cut out for digestive problems that have very easy solutions, like removing certain food intolerances. Can you imagine getting your intestine removed and then still suffering symptoms, most people do, realizing that, and then they go on an elimination diet, they remove wheat, and they're like, holy shit, my symptoms are gone. Why did I ever even think I had to get my intestine removed? So now they're left with parts of their intestine removed. They find removing a certain food group actually solves their symptoms. Their symptoms didn't go away after their intestine surgery. All along, all they had to do was remove a certain food group. Then you have these fuckers, going on about, fucking paleo diet is full of shit, keto is full of shit, just track your fucking macros, you noobs. You tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists, you charlatans just want to sell books and blah, blah, blah. You don't have a fucking medical degree, and then the people that do have medical degrees and are saying this nonsense are full of crap. People like Lauren Cordain and Paul Saladino and Sean Baker should be put in jail, or whatever, Dr. Greger should be put in jail, or whatever, because they're preaching this bullshit. Meanwhile, their advice is keeping people from removing their intestines surgically. Just removing certain foods, and then they find they can add certain foods back in later on. I agree that there is a problem with saying, plants are toxic if you're carnivore, or meat is toxic if you're vegan. Or saying beans, they have these evil lectins that take control of your body and destroy your intestines from the inside out, and everyone should avoid them. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. It's irrational. Garlic is a neurotoxin or whatever, like some of these people say. Yeah, absolutely, that's nonsense. But, equally as damaging is when you say, oh, all that matters is caloric balance. Anyone who thinks, all you need is to restrict calories. Plants are good for everyone. Fiber's good for everyone. Follow general principles, the My Plate from the government recommendations or whatever. Eat adequate protein, restrict your calories, and you're good to go. Eat healthy foods, remove refined foods, and you'll be fine. That is good for weight loss, but health outcomes, it is ignoring a significant portion of people, way more than most people realize, that would benefit from some of these protocols, okay? Some of these elimination diets and these paleo diets and things. Don't eat a paleo diet because it's supposedly what your paleo ancestors ate. Try out a paleo diet to see if it resolves some of your chronic conditions. Acne, low energy levels throughout the day, which a whole food diet in general might help. digestive illness, autoimmune illness. The list can go on. But these people, they're just like, oh, what I learned in school and the textbooks and the certain meta-analysis that I choose to follow shows these results. Therefore, what you're saying is bullshit or whatever. It just doesn't make any sense, or it just doesn't serve the overall net benefit that you think. You'd be way better off. So it's just not a beneficial thing to tell these people that these diets are bullshit, period. And then maybe mention kind of like, oh, if you have food intolerances, that's a different thing. And then just like hammer home this idea that eating whole foods is all that matters and blah, blah, blah. So, this is my main bone to pick with mainstream nutritional gurus, is like, to a certain degree, they're not lying, but going on and on about, paleo and elimination and so-called fad diets without explaining their potential benefits is a falsehood. You're doing a lot of people a disservice. A lot of people following your information that are suffering from serious health consequences, who are not really getting help by their doctors. They're getting all these medications to try to treat the symptoms that don't really help so much and usually cause more side effects and need more medications in the future. These people could easily solve, like a lot of these people can just solve their problems by going on elimination diets and figuring out, oh, holy shit, those whole grains people have been telling me to eat that are so healthy actually were causing my problems. Holy crap, I actually had a nightshade intolerance and didn't realize that was triggering my arthritis. Sure, it sounds like a charlatan food diet, tinfoil hat thing, but in reality, people get results, and it's not a placebo effect. There are mechanisms that have been identified as potentially triggering a lot of these issues. And ketogenic protocol is as well. There's applications outside of epilepsy. There's people that have chronic fatigue syndrome that, for whatever reason, there's some kind of issue in their glucose metabolism or their carbohydrate metabolism. There's people that have chronic insomnia that find, for whatever reason, a ketogenic protocol seems to relieve their insomnia. There's some people that think keto worsens their problems, but the main issue here is that, again, you're seeing the whole world of nutrition through the eyes of these mainstream principles, caloric balance and whole foods and this and that and micronutrients, and you're not seeing the potential anti-nutrients that tend to trigger certain issues in people, or so we say. You're not seeing that, oh, ketogenic metabolism is more than just like restricting a whole food group. Carnivore diets are more than just restricting a whole food group and being anti-vegetable. There are real life practical principles that help a whole lot of people. So most people following my channel already know all this, but I can't even begin to explain the amount of ignorance I see on the internet, people arguing back and forth and not understanding the relevance behind these things. Leave your question comments down below, and I don't see how you could be evidence-based and disagree with me in this regard. I just don't see how you can make an argument towards, oh, regardless of how many people suffer from these problems, the only thing you can probably say is nope, there's no way that beans are causing the symptoms. It's all a placebo effect. It's just very ignorant and delusional to say something like that. Leave your question comments down below. Talk to y'all next time.